I mean, there was pens on the thing when they signed in. They could keep them. Some may not. We didn't. Just a reminder, welcome. Let me welcome you and then remind you, in case you didn't. On your way in there was a sign-in sheet for members. Just make sure if you're a member, you signed at your name. And if you're an adherent, we'd love to know that you were here as well. As in, if you aren't a member, if your name wasn't on that list, just add your name at the bottom, just in pen, just so we have, it's nice to know who was here. So no one's moving, so obviously you all did that, so that's cool. And there was pens there too, and hopefully if you needed a pen tonight, you have one already. Welcome to those online as well, watching from YouTube. We're just glad that you're able to watch with us tonight. And yeah, welcome to those who are here. It's good to be together. Eh? Yeah. If you remember, I did a little bit of stuff at last year's ABM. I'll try to keep that to a minimum, as I think we nearly made it a 2-day event. So excited just to be here together to reflect on this past year, to celebrate things from the past year, and to make some decisions that are important for this coming year together for us to live as LEMC, live as the Church of Jesus Christ, seek to be his body in this town, and to live as a body of Jesus here. I just want to share some things just to set the tone for us tonight. And particularly, I'm going to invite those who are, this is going to be weird. Those who are on council or nominated for council, just to stand. I'm going to read, and you can stand to the side if that makes it feel less awkward, because then you're in front of everybody. So those who are on council and nominated for council, just invite you to stand. Because particularly this is a call about leadership, but it is also something for us all together, and I just want this to set the tone for us tonight. So this is at the end, this is John 21, Jesus makes breakfast for his disciples on the beach. And this is what it says. It said, Jesus came, took the bread, and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. This was now the third time Jesus appeared to his disciples after he had been raised from the dead. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said, "you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." The third time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, "Do you love me?" He said, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my sheep. Very truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, "Follow me." With that scripture in mind, I just want to invite all of us just to do a bit of a participatory prayer through this passage. And your response is going to be, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Can you say that with me? Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. In a posture of prayer, I'm just going to read the words of Jesus and invite you to respond. So when I say, "Do you love me?" you can respond with that. So let this be a prayer. Obviously, you're not saying this to me. This is about our relationship with Jesus. So Jesus says to us, "Do you love me?" Feed my lambs. Jesus said, "Do you love me?" Take care of my sheep. Do you love me? Feed my sheep. This is what ministry This is what doing the work of the church, this is what leadership is about, Christian leadership. Out of love for the one who loves us, in this particular passage, we see Peter, who, having done something that he had not imagined he could ever do to Jesus in denying him in his worst moments, Jesus reinstating to Peter his call for him not only to be a follower, to say, follow me, but to him also to be a leader, to care for Jesus' sheep, and for him to be a martyr, to die just like Jesus died for his mission. This is what ministry and this is what leadership and this is what church work is about, is responding to the love of God for us, loving him in return. It's because we love him that is the root of why we lead, the root of why we do the things that he calls us to do, because he cares about people. He cares about people. He's called us to love and to care for and to feed his children, those he is still gathering and those he has already gathered. Can you believe that the Good Shepherd actually entrusts us to shepherd his sheep on his behalf? If there's anything I want you to take from this brief moment of reflection now at the beginning of this meeting, it's that. Isn't it amazing that the Good Shepherd entrusts us to care for his sheep? This is what, this is the kind of shepherding that Jesus gives. It says in John 10, I am the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. The man runs away because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. I am the Good Shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Let us shepherd, led by the Spirit of Jesus, who dwells inside. Shepherd like the Good Shepherd. We're not the replacement of Jesus on the earth, and yet he calls us to care for his people, to feed his people, to chase after his people who are not yet in the fold. Let us lead by his Spirit and not by the attitude of a hired hand. Jesus is the head of the church. He and he alone gives life and life to the full. Let it be our sole desire to set aside our will, to seek his good, pleasing, and perfect will, and to run the race he's marked out for us. As it says in Ephesians, as each part does its work, the body of Jesus is built up. In fact, I'm going to read that. It says, from him, from Jesus. Actually, I'll start 15. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of him who is the head, that is Christ. From him, the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work. There's a call, certainly, and thank you, Council and Councilor Jimenez, for standing, because there is a sobering call to shepherd God's sheep under the chief shepherd. And we see that throughout Scripture, sometimes shepherds, leaders being rebuked for the how poorly they lead and shepherd God's people, not caring for them, not doing it with the right motives, not doing it out of love like they should. But this calling, this invitation for us to be able to participate in that as leaders, and there's a special call. So for those of you who are on council nominees, there's a special call in that. And yet it's the same attitude that all of us are called to have. As it says in Ephesians, the church is only built up as each part does its work. Held together with Jesus' head, held together by every supporting ligament as each part grows and builds itself up in love. All of us called to have that same attitude, to out of love for Jesus, who calls us to love his people, those gathered and those yet to be gathered. Let's pray. God, we thank you that you are here. We thank you that not by our status, skills, or ambition that we could be a successful church. We could be a successful something, but we couldn't be a successful church. Only by your call, only by your Spirit, only by your grace can we be a church with you as head, where good news, where heaven comes to earth. Lord, we depend on you in this. And Jesus, we ask that you would lead us to be entirely devoted, undistracted, focused, joyful, courageous for your mission, the things you desire for your people here that are already part of this body, and for your people out there who are not. Jesus, may you lead us in love, love for you and love for your sheep. In your name, amen. Awesome. Thank you for standing. You can have a seat, Paul.
Thanks, Carter. So I'd like to call the meeting to order now. So first I'd like to ask that everyone, if you don't have an ABM booklet, there are copies in the hallway there. So everything we will be talking about tonight will be in the ABM booklet, except for the printed copy that you're handed. We forgot to add that, so we're just going to amend our agenda shortly here. Okay, so the first motion for tonight is to approve tonight's agenda as it's presented at this point. So before we can go into discussion, I'd like to have someone move it and someone second it. We have a mover and someone second. Sue. Okay. So now that it has been moved and seconded, we move to approve the agenda as presented. Now we can open up for discussion. So if you want to move to amend it.
Everybody, I think, was handed out a copy of Carter's ordination. Some names might have shown up more than once, actually, on the present list with Zoom. If people log out and log back in, their name shows up more than once. So, but we would like to include that into our agenda there. So if I can have a motion to include the ordination minutes.
Someone to second it? Okay, now that's been approved and the motion carries, I'd like to open it up to a vote. All those in favor, just raise your hand. Okay, majority has it. The motion is carried. Okay, so the next motion on the agenda for tonight is, you'll find it on pages 4 through 9. It's the minutes from the March 25th, 2021 ABM. And before we can open up for discussion, I'd like to have someone move it and someone second it. Okay. And a second? Also. Okay. Now that it's been moved and seconded, I open the floor up for discussion if there's any concerns. No concerns there, so I open the, so we'll go into a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Motion's carried. So the next motion is the motion we just amended the agenda for, and it's for the minutes from our May 23rd, 2021 meeting. And before we can discuss it, I'd like someone to move it and someone to second it. And Chris. Now that it's been moved and seconded, I'd like to open it up for discussion. Helen, did you have a concern with it? No? Okay. Good. No? Okay. So now that it's been moved and second, and there's nothing up for discussion, I'd like to call it to a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. It's been approved, so the motion carries. So the next step for tonight is to appoint our scrutineers. So we're probably looking 4 or more scrutineers just to volunteer for tonight. Chris? Sue? Ashley? I almost said no to my wife. Paul? Oh, that's right. Yes, yeah. Oh, Amy, did you have your hand up? Oh, sorry, I couldn't see it back there. Do we have? Okay. Chris, are you okay to the chair of that? Okay. So before we move forward, I'd like to call up Joel and Brad from council to discuss a business matter for tonight.
Good evening, everyone, and it's a pleasure to take part in your ABM with you this year. We've got a slide that's going to come up in a moment that I want to address before we move to the vote of confidence matter that's on the agenda this evening. And first of all, I'm just grateful for a chance to speak and to address you as members. I've been around for about 10 months, on average 10 hours a week. That's not a lot, you can do the math. But in that time, it's been my privilege to work mostly behind the scenes with the staff and with the council, and with some of the committees that are in place. And then you'll see me here about once a month in a preaching capacity. And I have really enjoyed this season of walking with you as a congregation. And I know that there's always more work to do in relational healing, in structural renewal, in people understanding what's going on. And so I'm thankful for all of the beautiful conversations and the heart of the people of God to want to do right and to serve the Lord here. Tonight, just to mention that there's a matter that has come to the light, and it has to do with how we've understood the bylaws. You know, the bylaw exists to serve the people and to give a good accountability between council and staff and members to one another. And we know that bylaws can be changed. We've got a constitutional review committee established currently. Now, it was council's intent, and mine with them in advising them, to put on tonight's agenda a vote of confidence for Pastor Carter. And the rationale for this vote of confidence was sent out with the new co-lead pastor job descriptions in February. But there was a question on order and as to whether we could actually proceed with this vote of confidence. A vote of confidence is not an election, it's a poll. It's an informal way of gauging support. And we've laid out the rationale for taking this approach, but here's a quick summary, and this shows up in the column on the left. Pastor Carter has been serving as a quasi-lead pastor for much of the past year, and is ensuring that the ministries that he formerly oversaw as youth pastor have been attended to, while adding a lot of other dimensions to his role. But he has done so without being elected as a lead pastor. But it was a needed appointment, and it was right, and it was good, and it's been a gift from the Lord. So council was not doing anything beyond their authority in filling the interim role with a gifted pastor on staff for a defined purpose. However, there was something offline in simply moving a hired pastor who was not elected into a lead role, because in your bylaw it says that lead pastors must be voted in by members. Council also did not want to create extra vulnerability in the church by running the risk of Carter not getting the vote of 75% support, because people may have wanted to retain him, for instance, in the youth role, because they love him there. And so now that these ministry needs are better covered with the gifted leadership of Ainsley and the volunteer team under Pastor Carter's oversight, council believes there's a stronger confidence within the congregation for this kind of move. Also, council appointed the Constitutional Review Committee, and we got started in about January, and tasked them with the mandate to adjust the bylaws to ensure we could accommodate a lead pastoral team, more than one lead pastor, which doesn't actually spell out exactly in how your bylaws are written, except there's a note that one lead pastor can mean multiple. And this motion was put together before that understanding came to light, and that was a while ago. And we didn't catch that there was a misstep along the way. So this is why council selected the route of presenting a vote of confidence for you tonight, to bring this forward as a poll, a vote of confidence as a poll, for an existing leader serving in a current interim quasi-lead role. And the vote of confidence would mean that Carter would stay at the level of lead as a second co-lead pastor is hired, creating a lead pastoral team. That's what the Pastoral Search Committee is looking at, a pastor of teaching and equipping, and together would be co-leads in a lead pastoral team. And that would provide smooth transition and continuity. And it would also ensure that the whole congregation knew the pastoral search was only for the lead pastor of teaching and equipping role, not for both. So you can understand how confusing this all was in trying to navigate something simple. However, we've since learned that the current bylaw accommodates more than one lead pastor. The bylaw can be applied to any lead pastor. So moving to two means we have to follow the same path for the two. So here's the second path on the right of the slide behind me. An election of Pastor Carter to a lead role. There's an alternate path which council, in consultation with membership over the past few weeks, has been discussing. And this would lead to the withdrawal of the vote of confidence tonight, and would give council time to draw up both a clear interim, an updated clear interim lead pastor job description, and then come back to you as members as soon as we can for a proper election vote of Pastor Carter for a lead role, which would be in place until the other co-lead is elected, and then Carter would fulfill the duties of the community life role that we read about last month. Both paths actually honor the gifting and calling of Pastor Carter, but one puts an election of Pastor Carter in the books that allows him to serve in any lead role without question in accordance with your current bylaws. The other that was put before you in the agenda tonight acknowledges that since he's already been serving in a quasi-lead role without being elected, and having been recently affirmed for ordination last year, Pastor Carter is simply affirmed to continue. The bylaw intent for voting and electing in a lead pastor is generally at the beginning of their tenure, although when Pastor Jeff moved from associate to lead, there was a proper search and there was a vote. And so your history and trajectory is on this second option. The council will abide by the will of the members because the bylaws serve the people. And they've wanted to bring this up tonight and put together a poll that Brad's going to explain.
Thank you, Joel. We appreciate that, and we appreciate all that you've done in supporting us over this past year. So as Joel mentioned, Council's intent is to honor our bylaws, and our originally intended path was one that was seeking to honor our congregation and create stability in Carter's role and for the organization. After receiving some feedback, we understand that there is another route, this second route, that may be pursued that follows our bylaws related to the lead pastor role more clearly. Under this alternative route, Council would return with a clear motion to elect Pastor Carter to serve in any lead pastor role, starting with the current interim role he's been serving in, and then transitioning to the role of co-lead pastor of community life once the other co-lead pastor is hired. Council believes both pathways essentially achieve the same thing, to affirm Carter as a gifted pastor that we hired as a youth and transitioning to a lead role, both now in the interim and in the future on the co-lead pastoral team. It's our conviction that in the congregation, the two votes are the same thing, but in the bylaws, they are not. So, to summarize, we're going to ask the membership whether or not you would have us withdraw this motion in relation to a vote of confidence as set out in the agenda as a matter of order. So what we're going to do before we would consider a vote of confidence is actually vote if we even want to proceed with that, or whether we would want us to come back with further information, further details that further follow our bylaws more directly, and have a second vote in, I don't know, let's say a month or so on that transition as soon as, like as Joel said, as soon as we can. So we're going to have ballots, so the request will be settled through the following ballots, which will read as follows. So Chris has those, and so if the scrutineers could work with Chris. So the ballot will say, withdraw this vote of confidence and proceed with an election of Pastor Carter into a lead pastor role for the present interim and on the future lead pastoral team. And if you say yes, that means you'd like us to withdraw this current motion that we have in the agenda and we would not proceed with the vote of confidence. If you were to say no, you're saying you're okay with us proceeding with the vote of confidence this evening. Okay? Before you fill them all out, so it requires a 51% majority to have clear direction. So if 51% of the people say yes, then we will not proceed with the vote of confidence. If 51% say no, we would proceed with the vote of confidence for Pastor Carter this evening. Is there any questions? Sorry. Oh, do we have a proxy on that? Give me a sec, just let Jenny talk first.
No, it's the next step. So are both of the votes tonight, if we go ahead with the vote, a 75% vote or a 50% vote? Are they both 75%
So the
votes
first
at that?
one would be 50%.
This one, the one that
This
we're doing
current
right
one
now
that we're doing, yeah.
is 50.
The secondary vote
Both
would be
sec-
75%.
both secondary votes would be, whichever way it goes, either vote would be a 75% vote. Is that correct?
I don't believe, so this vote that is occurring now.
This is yes or no? 50,
Yeah.
this is
This
majority
yes or
rules.
no is 51%
Okay,
to
so,
carry.
and so I think it's important to know that both the votes will be at 75% after this. Like if we
One vote is 50%, 51%. The second vote, should we proceed to a vote of confidence for Pastor Carter, would require a 75%.
As would if we wait for a few weeks.
Correct, yeah,
That's-
as would,
okay, now-
if we didn't do a vote tonight and we did it in a few weeks, it
That's
would
what I'm
also,
try-
both
that's
of
what-
those
that's
would,
what I
yeah,
was trying to
sorry,
ask.
I thought you meant both tonight, yes.
No, like that.
Correct.
So like we're not saying if the next one would be a 50% vote.
No.
No, okay,
No,
so that's.
both require 75% as per what a typical pastoral lead pastor vote would require.
Oh, okay.
Correct. Yes, a proxy. I don't think there's a proxy for this. Yeah, no proxy. Proxies can vote for anything? Oh, then there is a proxy. I'm learning as we go. Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. So if you do have a proxy, you can ask for a second paper to vote for the proxy. So just put your hand up and Chris will come around for anyone with a proxy. Sorry for all the confusion.
Hey, Brad? Sorry, question.
Yep.
Are we still on? If we select no, if we select no and proceed with a vote of confidence tonight, we will still need to do an election?
No. No. That would negate the need for the election, and we would proceed as if Carter is transitioning into the interim lead pastor role, eventually transitioning to the co-lead pastor role.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Just to clarify for the proxy vote, if you had a proxy vote for his confirmation, like for approving Carter in that role, that will apply for both votes. For this poll and the next poll.
I think so.
So we clear on the proxy then? Does that make sense? That's almost like it doesn't.
This vote for Carter, if it's, let's say it ends up being a no, what does that mean for Carter then? Does that mean that people are thinking we want to keep him as youth pastor, so I'm voting no? Or does that mean we lose him?
If this vote is a yes,
I'm sorry, but if we end up voting tonight, a confidence vote,
yeah.
does a no mean we want him to stay as a youth pastor, or does a no mean Carter's not staying?
Yeah.
Okay. That is a question. Sure.
Do you mind answering that one when it comes back? Okay, so Joel's going to address that question once the votes are counted. Okay. Yeah, that's right. So while we're waiting, we'll move on to the next motion for tonight. Okay. So for the next motion for tonight, it's to approve council's report on page 13 through 15. And before we can open up on discussion on this one, I need someone to move and second the motion. Brad moves. And I need a second. Janice. Okay, so the motion's been first and second. I'd like to open up for a vote. So if everyone could raise their hand if they approve. All in favor? So I'll do that once again. All in favor to approve, just so I can see if we had enough. The council report, sorry. Okay, motion carried. So the next motion we'd like to read off is the approval of the nomination committee report. That's found on page 10. So before we can move to discussion, I need a mover and a second. All right, you got those. So we have a mover and a second, so we'll move to our discussion. If we have any questions about it. Okay, no questions, so we'll move to a vote. All that approve, raise your hand. Okay, motion's been approved and carried. So now we're at a standstill until our scrutineers get back. Thank you. Now I gotta remember which one was which, right? Because you have to destroy them, right? We move forward with the vote of confidence. We do not move forward with vote of confidence. Okay. So we got the results of the vote, and the nays have it. So we will not move forward with the vote tonight. So we'll be tabling that discussion. So you can walk them through the next steps? Or? Yeah. Yeah. And job description. Yeah, yeah. So to make that clear, we're going to withdraw it from our agenda tonight for Carter's vote of confidence. So the next step will be for us to draft up a job description of what Carter's role will be in the intern before we hire a co-lead, so that everyone's clear on what they will be voting for at the next step. Thanks for everyone's feedback on that. It was fine either way. We're fine with that. It will just take. It's just going to make the process a little bit longer, which is fine. Make a motion to. No. So that skips that. Do we have to? No.
Hi, Joel here. The question is, do we need a motion to withdraw something from the agenda? And the rules of order are that if we aren't yet there in the agenda, any motion or item on the agenda can be withdrawn. And we've followed a process to get that clarity. So it simply needs to be noted that it is withdrawn from tonight's agenda, and then we'll revert to the other plan. That's great.
Okay, so now we'll move on to voting for positions. And so I'll call for the scrutineers to distribute the ballots for the nominees. Next card. For the nominating committee. We're missing a vote then. For that's clear, everyone. Let's move to just one here, sorry. So while they're counting and before our break, the next item is to review and approve of annual reports and discussions with core ministry leaders. And you'll find those reports from page 19 to 43. And I'll just call Carter up.
Great. I just want to just invite the CMLs to stand. Maybe I'll include others who have written reports as well. Okay, sure. Great, because I know. Okay. Thank you. Can we just give a round of applause to each of our... Before you sit down, I just want to go through, just in case some of you don't know by chance some of these people. So Pauline Howard is Missions Core Ministry CML. Woo! Sue Bedard, small groups. Yeah. Okay. Joyce Klumpenhauer. Ainsley isn't technically CML, but obviously she's the youth coordinator. Yeah, so nice. Mike, worship director, and Dylan, they wrote the Sunday ministry. Janice, of course, finance. Thanks, Janice. And Steve is physical plant CML, and that's a newer thing. So, obviously, in here, there's a couple. The other one is the Pastoral Care Core Ministry, in which Merle has been standing as chair, but has declined the CML role. But sorry, that's nothing changed really. But so thank you, Merle, for standing as chair. And we won't make you stand from your chair. But thank you so much to each of you, and thank you well, from myself, but from, I'm sure speak on behalf of the church here, but just thank you for your hard work through this year. I know that, I mean, I'm coming off of 3 weeks of being off, which has been wonderful, by the way, with Otto. So that's been wonderful, but I feel particularly disconnected from all of you because I haven't thought about you for 3 weeks, which is the longest I haven't thought about you in 6 years. So it feels hard. But I'm excited about the opportunity for us to spend more time together over this coming year. As we know, COVID stuff has changed and things have opened up, and that's just so delightful. But for each of these people in ministries and teams who have served faithfully through this time, through a time of disconnectedness, through a time of constant flexibility, and as you read their reports, you'll see just their ownership and the responsibility they've taken in their roles. We just really, really appreciate each of you doing your work, taking ownership over these important things. So thank you. So with that, I'll invite I'll give it to Paul. There you go.
Thanks, Carter. Appreciate it. So the next part of the motion is to have someone move it and second it for approval of the review or for the annual reports and for the annual reports of the core ministry leaders. So we have someone move it. Jenny. And second? Yeah. Okay, I have a mover and a second, so we'll open the floor up for discussion. So at this point, if you have any questions about anyone's reports, you can ask the question, and we'll try to have, if that person's here, we'll have that person answer the question if they can. And the reports are from page 19 to 43. Okay, doesn't look like we have any questions on the reports. So we'll move to a vote. All in favor of, raise your hand. Great, thank you. The vote carries the motion. Okay, now actually we're time for the break.
Before we take that break, Jenny, did you think, sorry, Jenny Lease Martin. Are you prepared to share, Jenny? Yeah, perfect. Okay, good. I didn't, anyways. Yes, absolutely. Jenny's just going to share just an encouraging, something encouraging with us. Thank you, Jenny. Give Jenny a round of applause.
Sorry for the feedback there. So up with God, in with each other, and out with our community. That is an awful lot of connections right there. And there are days that I do not feel like being very people-y, like, ew, people. But it's so important. It's who we are, and God created us to be connected. That the connection went really well in the Garden of Eden until Adam and Eve decided to mess that up, and that drastically altered the course of history. And God wants a connection with us ever since He breathed the breath of life into Adam, and so much so that He gave His life on the cross for us, for every single person, and that is how important connection was to Him. In order to keep that connection with us, God gave us His phone number. Jeremiah 33:3 says, "Call on me and I will answer you." He also gave us the best manual ever on how to live. What to do when the struggle is fierce, the waters are high and the fire is raging, whether we are on a mountaintop or journeying through a deep valley, whether we are stuck in a mundane, repetitive job, or if we're on the adventure of a lifetime, or when anxiety and loneliness consume us, and when we see through rose-colored glasses. How does connection happen in 2022? It is definitely a choice to invest in the lives of others and to let people into our lives. It's hard to be vulnerable, but it is so worth it. Before this started tonight, there was facts up on the screen. And did you notice that the small groups have doubled and people asking for connection had tripled? So that just tells you a little bit about connection and how much it is needed. So I joined the Welcome team because I was craving connection. And I'm an introvert, but I still felt like I needed that extra connection with people and within the church. And I kind of felt like I was drifting, and having a team really made a difference. And I think COVID has consumed our lives, and I know that really did a lot with connections and not feeling connected because of protocols. So on a Sunday morning, if you see me or any of the other fabulous ladies on our team saying welcome, we really mean it. And it's really nice to not have masks. When we had to register everybody into the laptop, I think I said more often than not, sorry, what was that? What was your name? I didn't quite catch that. So it's nice just to greet people by name and not play the guessing game, who are you? And the amazing and authentic group of women on the Welcome team, they're a pleasure to work with. We're all at different stages in our lives. Some are raising young kids. I'm kind of in the middle of raising little kids and being grandparents, and we have some older people too that provide so much insight to us. And these connections probably wouldn't have happened if we weren't on this team together. Okay, let's talk about small groups. How many of you are in a small group? That deserves a round of applause. Does small groups help you feel connected? Does it make a difference? I think it does as well. We have, are you ready for this? We have 16 different small groups in LEMC right now, and they're very diverse. They go from moms and tots to active seniors. There are prayer groups that happen every morning, I believe. And these are groups of people in different stages of life that connect every day, possibly weekly, bi-weekly, and we do life together. The small group that I am in, right now we're working on finding our rhythm, what works for us, and it's very important to me. It is a safe and a confidential space to share together. It's a priority on my calendar. The food never disappoints, and the company is pretty amazing as well. God is definitely there as we are in our homes or around a campfire. We get to know Him better. We feel the support of our friends, and it just helps us. I'm more well-rounded having a group of people that do life with me. So I am hoping to see small groups have a huge impact on LEMC as a whole and create a ripple effect of up, in, and out. And with so many people pouring into each other's lives, it can't help but be positive. It's going to make a difference in the world around us. So if you want to join a small group, talk to Amy Brubaker or Sue Bedard or me, and we would love to connect you.
Thank you so much, Jenny. You're such an amazing example of just someone who's found such great joy in both teams and small groups, and that's exciting. I mean, I'm excited about your excitement, and I'm excited about that I know that this is a common experience. When we join a team, when we join a small group, there is real fruit that comes out of it. It takes making that step. But there's a real benefit, and that's something for us. I mean, we're, how many people are here? 50? 47? 48? 9? 50 people that are here tonight, right, aren't representative of the whole church. You could say on the higher end of the commitment spectrum, right? And so you perhaps have experienced these things or are already, highly invested on a team, on multiple teams, serving in many areas, or in a small group, and multiple small groups, who knows? But there's others around us, and I just want to encourage each of us, as we think about re-engaging people with the opportunities to reconnect, the opportunities for people to start serving again in areas that haven't been able to function over the past, or to participate in in-person small groups. Each of us have connections with people who are maybe lacking a sense of purpose, lacking a sense that they are able actually to participate in the mission of God, which is the point of our teams, and participate in a family of belonging where they can be and also grow. And so I just want to encourage each of us to consider, with those connections that we have both in and outside the church, how we can encourage others to step into something that would bring real purpose, real belonging, and real growth in the lives of other people. And I want to thank you each for all the roles that you play, as I know you are so committed to this church, and I really appreciate that. So thank you. Anyway, we're going to take a break now, and thank you, Jenny, for that awesome talk there. So you can stand up, head out there. And we'll come back at 10 to 8.
just stopped in, but they're like the second thing out of Christie's mouth. Have you eaten? No? Sorry. Should we stop?
Wonderful. What a great break. Did you all get to peruse the amazing art wall? Yes? Oh, Ainsley and Laura did that today. Mostly Laura, sorry. I meant to put Laura's name first and there was an accident. Laura with Ainsley today did that and love it. Thank you. Oh, there's Laura. Let's give Laura applause for that art wall. It's just beautiful. And those comments or quotes are real quotes. She didn't just make those up. Those were from real people. I'm going to invite Jane up, and she's going to share just an encouragement with us as well, and then we're going to continue with our meeting. Thanks, Jane.
Okay, I am really excited that our church has a community component to it. As I see the direction that we're moving in, the fact that we're not going to be all about the box is just so exciting to me. And I've been reading a book, and if you ever get a chance to get hold of it, it's called Missional Renaissance, and it's about how to move out into the community and just simple things that can be done that make a real difference in everybody's life. And so as I've been reading this book, it's just kind of energized me and made me try to think of what little things I can do in terms of the book, what they call be the aroma of Jesus to the people around you. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm starting to try. Not try to be perfect, but try a few of the ideas. So then when we come back to thinking about missional things and about LAMC, one day I was here and I was just kind of roaming around in my own little world, and I noticed that the curtains were gone off the windows. And I thought, those millennials, they took the curtains, and you know, you just can't leave anything the same, can you? And so I got the courage to go and ask, where are the curtains? And I found out that the curtains were stored upstairs. And probably many of you know that I'm involved with an exterior group that work with refugees. And so I said to Laura, you know those curtains? I know some people that maybe could make some use of them. And so we got the curtains all gathered up, and I took them home and washed them. And there's a lady that I liaise with in Waterloo, and she gets the referrals for the families. And then she sends me her wish list. And so I look in the computer, and there's a list, you know, like about this long. And I partner with the Baptist Church. You know, they have their huge garage sale every May, and they give me things all year long that I move on to my friend in Waterloo who gives them to refugees. So there was a very wealthy man in Waterloo. He's a Christian, and he has a huge house, great big thing with many, many windows. And my friend Janet knew that there were 2 refugee families staying in this home, and they had blankets over the windows and whatever. So she said to the lady, would you like some curtains? And Janet said to me, now you think you got a lot of curtains? I got a lot of curtains. And so I boxed up the curtains and took them down there, and Janet took them to the lady and just kind of left them. Well, a few weeks later, Janet got an invitation. She and her husband actually got an invitation by this refugee couple to come for dinner. And so she came in. A lot of these homes, like it can be a beautiful exterior home, but everything inside is a bit of this and a bit of that because it's all donated stuff. And the lady said to Janet, come and see. And she took her into this living room, which is huge and has like a whole bank of windows all around it. And there were our church curtains. And the lady, she just said, praise Allah, praise Allah. And that tells you something. She's Muslim. And so Janet just said, yes, praise God. He just provides for our needs when we need it, and so forth. So Dave and Janet had supper with this family, and like the lady was praising Allah till Janet and Dave left, like right out the door. And what that was to me, a very simple thing where stuff that we didn't need had a purpose for somebody else, and it went outside the box. And along with that, there was no intent to evangelize this couple. It was just to share the goodness of God. And if they call him Allah and I call him God, well, the story is not over. God is working, and it's not me that needs to do the convicting or converting or any of that. And I've often thought that sometimes we make it so hard. We just think that we got to be out there and we got to be in their face and we got to be telling them, they're going to hell or they're going to heaven or all of these things. And we leave God out of the equation. And so what I'm learning from my book and what I'm learning from life is just be obedient. Make it simple. Just do little acts of kindness. And so I've been trying to share some of these things that I've attempted to do with my small group, because you know what? It is our stories that energize people to move in a particular direction. And that's one thing that my book continues over and over again to say, tell your stories, because one person will hear and they'll say, I can do that. And another person will say, I have that thing that you need. And it's like together our story is our mission. And so I have no idea where our church is going to go in its missional community aspect, but I'm on board.
Following that up, Paul, good luck. That was awesome, Jane. Thank you. Again, I'm just so excited by your excitement. It's beautiful.
I'll just call someone else to follow that up. So we'll actually ask the Constitutional Review Committee. Two of their members are going to come up just to speak now on behalf of that committee. And also on page 47, you'll find their report so far. And then on page 48, you'll find the Pastor Search Committee report. So they've had 2 meetings so far, and they'll have another meeting early April, so you'll get another update from them in April. And Norm and Jenny.
Shorter. Good evening. Well, we would like to share with you what we're learning and thinking about on the Constitutional Review Committee. Amy Brubaker is also on this committee, but she's busy taking minutes right now.
The old bylaws have served us well and were written in such a way to allow for many changes in our ministry. For example, we can hire 2 lead pastors within the framework they provide.
Now, Joel describes the work of council as using the metaphor of the walls around the sandbox. And we can take that metaphor a bit further to explain what the bylaws are. Bylaws are the rules of the sandbox that the members set for council to follow while they're governing. And the members described the rules in detail back in 2005 and 2008.
Believe me, it's a lot of details to take in and understand, but it is a good detail.
One of the things that we want to accomplish as a Constitutional Review Committee is to make sure that those involved in leadership of the church are familiar with the rules of the sandbox, the bylaws.
And on council, we've been working towards this as well.
We also have the Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations Act to get our heads around. We call that ONCA, and it was just passed in October of 2021. This act opens up the possibilities for having 3-year terms for our council members, with 2 members retiring each year.
While we think this length of term and overlapping of terms will help councils pass on good practices to the next council, doing so requires the rules of the sandbox be changed.
Yeah, he does mean that means we need to change the bylaws. If we want to go to 3-year terms, the bylaws will need to be changed, even though the province now allows us to have them.
And since the bylaws are controlled by the members, members need to agree to this in that this is a good idea from their point of view in order to change the bylaws.
So start thinking. What do you think about having 3-year terms and how this might change might or might not be good for LEMC from your point of view? We're going to be asking questions about this at a later meeting.
We have to change the bylaws in other areas as well because of ONCA. For example, there are different thresholds for how many members need to agree to certain motions for them to pass.
We also have to refile our purposes. Purposes describe what we do as a charity, or in the language of ONCA, as a public benefit corporation. Currently, our purposes include having a house of worship, teaching the tenets of our faith, and supporting missionaries.
We are considering how adding alleviating poverty to our purposes could increase the effectiveness of our ministry at LEMC.
And again, the purposes must be approved by the members. So start thinking. What do you think about this?
And we are hoping that there are some members that are interested enough in the idea of adding alleviating poverty to our purposes that they will meet with us early in the process of considering this change.
That means more meetings for everyone.
This is not a quick process, and it'll likely take over a year.
But we do want to know what you're thinking and what you are seeing around you, because ultimately the rule of the sandbox are determined by the members.
Thanks, Jenny and Norm. So next, we want to invite our treasurer, Janice George, to review with us the financial reports and to open up a discussion. So her report begins on page 49.
Well, thank goodness they keep putting me closer and closer to the end of the meeting. So everyone's half asleep by the time I get up here. First, let me begin by saying I believe that with everything that has gone on in the past 2 years, it is clear to me that God is at work at LEMC. I believe He keeps providing a way for us to carry out His work here in Listowel by the support I've seen through these financials. Through all the volatility, He still keeps providing when some churches are suffering. Thank you all for your support, whether it be giving, serving, or praying. I believe we have done a good job at keeping the expenses down when we didn't know from 1 month to the next how things were going to go. Now this year, you will see that some major things need to be done, and we're hoping to add to our staff. We are praying for your continued support as we try to catch up on some of these things. If you have a financial booklet, it's open to the auditor's report, prepared by Ward and Updegrove. The first page explains that they have done a compilation engagement report and what that means and how they've done it. They also mention that they are aware that one of our directors or council members, Brad Bacher, is a partner at the firm, but he was not involved with the compilation of these statements. And we'll discuss this further at the end. If you go to the balance statement, we'll focus on the second last column on the right, which is the 2021. And I'm just going to point out a few things in these reports. I'm not going to keep you long. The bank balance at the end of 2021, $192,564, with an HST rebate available, $7,285, and our prepaid insurance expenses, $8,247, for a total of $208.96. If you go to the second page of that, which is page 3, under receipts, so that is the income that has come in. So for the events, that's fees that say youth would pay to go to an event. It gets put in as revenue, but it also gets taken out as an expense later. Interest, 617, offerings, 409,174, a bit down from 2020. And rental fees bring in, this past year, 2,185. In disbursements, which are expenses paid out, the only thing I'll draw your attention to is the programming, which came in at $55,990. It is up from the year 2020, but going back before COVID, our programming expenses were around $65,000. So we are about $10,000 less than what we would have normally been on a non-COVID year. Under other income, just below that, the government subsidies, that was a wage subsidy called CEWS, and that we had to apply for, and it was based on a decrease in our monthly revenue based on months prior to COVID. So compared January 2021 to January 2020, before COVID. So that was $25,865. On the last page, you can see under capital assets, the net book value for land, building, and equipment, valued at $954,843. Are there any questions about the financial statements? Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve the financial statement or the compilation engagement from Warden Updegrove as presented. I can make the motion, but I can't ask for it.
Janice did tell me that before, but I forgot. Ask for someone to second the motion. Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you. Motion is carried.
So if you turn over to the comparative 2021 income statement and the 2022 draft budget, which are the two columns on the right, just to go over how the budget is set. The core ministry leaders, we asked them to think about what they're going to be doing and what they would like to do in the coming year, and then they're asked to set their budget accordingly. So it's kind of a tough thing to think about what, a whole year's worth and what they would like to spend. But based on prior years and what they have planned, they come up with the budget. Finance then goes over it and presents it to council as we feel we've approved, and then council gets final decision to approve the budget. So we'll go down the actual column. So what was our revenue and our expenses in 2021. Once again, the offering was approximately $409,000, and with the government subsidy, $36,406. Now that's a different figure than what's in the financials because $10,000 approximately of that was from a prior year, from 2020. But it just got deposited in 2021. Excuse me, other than that, under physical plant, I noticed that snow removal was about a third of what it had been the last couple of years, which was a nice surprise. And I looked this year so far, I think we're going to be even less than that. We're going to be around 2,000. So we definitely haven't been getting the snow like we have other years. Over to the second page, Sunday and Platform Ministry. Guest speakers ended up to be over budget by double or more. We anticipated getting a lot of guest speakers, but we ended up getting more, and we also increased the honorarium and mileage for the guest speakers. So we found we were underpaying, and so we increased that for them. So that's why that's over budget. Other than that, on the last page, you'll see our actual expenses were $466,000, quite a bit less than what we budgeted, and that's because of the volatile year we had with not being able to have programming because of COVID. Looking at the budget that we've set for this year, the odd thing that's high, maybe the business administration, the legal and advisory. We're doing the bylaw work and some HR work, which is going to cost us a fair bit this year. Also, our insurance goes into that figure as well as our accounting fees. Down to physical plant capital projects. We have 47,500, and that, if you want to refer to the back page, is we need a new roof on the north side of the building, which is above the youth room. It's the last section to get done on the church, and we will be doing, or hoping to do that this year. And having said that, up in the revenue, you noticed we plugged in $30,000 as a special offering, and we would like to, that date for that will be determined. We are hoping that we can offset that huge expense by taking up a special offering for that. We have done that other years when we've had big expenses. Not only the roof, but some eave trough repair and replacing heat cables, and then some tile out here at the front corner of the church where the offices are. So those are the three main things under the capital projects there. Otherwise, nothing budgeted really that stands out from the normal, but, and also I'll mention the furnaces. So every year we put in this figure for furnaces, and every year our furnaces remain fine. They're well over their life expectancy, and we hope they don't both crash at the same time, but we have put in a contingency there for $60,000. We've upped that amount because we know everything's more money right now. So our budget is coming in at $625,450. It may seem high, but we're hoping the congregation will come alongside us so that we can get some of these projects done that we haven't done much of in the last few years. The other things on the list there's been a lot of talk about transparencies. We've included these items, and as we have other years, there can be considered a wish list. Other things that we may like to see get done, but they aren't included in the budget, and they will not get done unless we have the money and/or definitely council has to approve any other spending outside of the budget. Even if other core ministries go over their budget by a considerable amount, council has to approve that. Are there any questions? Oh, sorry. Yes, Alan? We have included a portion of the year if we happen to get another pastor. We know it's not going to be for a full year's wage. I think we planned for two-thirds or a third of the year or something like that. If it happens that quickly, we're not sure about that. Any other questions? Oh, Joyce?
We looked at the offerings, and in 2019, they're way higher than 2021. Is that concerning?
Higher by 50-ish. Yeah. With COVID being tougher for some people, I feel we're blessed with what we've got the past few years. Yes, and we've had the nest egg of around 190,000 that we've kept, and we've had to dip into it at one point during COVID, but we've gained it back. So the bank balance has pretty well stayed the same, but yes. The CEWS really helped, the government assistance. We will not have that this year. So yeah, we're basically 30,000 down as well, right? So that's why we're trusting and praying that the congregation will come alongside with us. Yes?
When we get, or it looks like we won't get that government subsidy, but were there obligations with those gifts, like from the government?
No. And that was something Merle taught me, that if there's strings attached, don't go after it. There were lots of other offers like loans and stuff like that, and we didn't go after anything else but this. And we couldn't get it every month. Like, we may have got it 4 or 5 months of the year, both years. Any other questions? Okay, I would like to make a motion that the 2022 budget be approved as presented.
Can we have someone move the motion? In a second, sorry. In a second. Okay, and all in favor? The motion carried.
So we'll move on to the fundraisers chart. This chart's about being transparent of what we are asking of the congregation, donation-wise, other than offerings. So in the first section, that would be monetary requests. And I believe we're going to have Teen Challenge. And before I start this, I must apologize. I had some last-minute fundraisers added to the chart. So I added them, and then I picked the wrong one to be put in the booklet. I had the old one, so sorry about that. So the new one was sent out a couple times. If you haven't seen it, try to look at that. So Teen Challenge is coming. They often ask for donations. Love on Listowel, VBS offering, we always ask the children bring in offering. And the 30,000 capital projects offering is in there as well. The second block is items that may be asked for. So Adam House, we just had that one last week. And Serve, which is a youth event. VBS, again, sometimes we ask for craft supplies and stuff like that, or snacks. And Operation Christmas Child, or a toy drive in later in the year. And then down at the bottom, they're continual things that may or may not go on, is the Christian Salvage, which any Christian books that you have at home that you want to donate to there is always a box out in the foyer. Food bank items, and we may have, if we have social events during the year, we may ask for food items. So that's just being transparent about what we're asking other than donations on a regular basis. Are there any questions about that? Okay, I would like to make a motion that the 2022 fundraiser chart be approved as presented.
You have someone move the motion? Norm? Someone second the motion? Okay, Joanne. And all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, motion carried.
Okay, and the last motion is about our accountants. So as a prelude to making a motion for our accountants who do our year end, you have to know that there were changes to the not-for-profit rules effective January 1st, 2022, that require us to increase the assurance level to a review engagement and not just a notice to reader or a compilation engagement. This will also increase our cost as well. Once there's an assurance engagement, there are more strict independence rules between the accounting firm and the client. We would not be able to have any employee or partner of the firm as a director or council member in LEMC in 2022. So because Brad Bacher's on council, we have to move from that accounting firm to another one so that we are totally independent. We know a few churches in town that are using MAC, which is MAC in Waterloo, for this same reason, and they come highly recommended. I've contacted MAC, and they're willing to do our financial statement or our review engagement for 2022. So I would like to make a motion that MAC in Waterloo be appointed as auditors of our 2022 year end for our review engagement.
Can I have someone second the motion? And all in favor, raise your hand.
Good.
Motion
Thank
carried.
you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Janice.
We just wanted to take just a quick moment to acknowledge the passing of Rita Sheffley this past September. She's been a long-time member of LEMC, and we just wanted to recognize and acknowledge her.
Thanks, Amy. So the next item on our agenda is election results. And just seeing if they snuck it in here. Oh, yeah, There it is. Okay. Okay. So for the nominating committee, I resolve that Pauline Howard, Joyce Klumpenhauer, Maynard Bowman, who are the CMLs, CMLs, and Ruth Carter, Abe Griesbeck, Joanne Snyder, Kathy Steckley, and Art Versteeg from the membership be on the 2023 nominating committee. I ask for someone to make a move for that motion. Okay, and second. Okay, okay, and any discussion on that topic? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, motion carried. So the next item on the agenda is establishment of council. This one, because there was only 3 nominees this year and we had 3 vacant spots, we didn't actually do ballots for it. So our new acclaimed council members will be Brad Bacher, Norm Bernard, and Dave Brubaker. And I'd like to make a motion that Norm Bernard, Brad Bacher, and Dave Brubaker are acclaimed to a 2-year term on council. Can I have someone move that motion? Okay. And a second? All those in favor? Okay. Motion carried. Okay, so the voting members of the 2022 council will consist of Brad Bacher, Dave Brubaker, Norm Bernard, Amy Brubaker, Paul Vandenhoven, and Jason Graidonis. So I'd like to make a motion to approve that Brad Bacher, Dave Brubaker, Norm Bernard, Amy Brubaker, Paul Vandenhoven, and Jason Graidonis be directors of the Listowel Evangelical Missionary Church of Ontario Corporation 1681448 for 2022. Someone move that motion? Okay. Second? Okay. Any discussion on this one? Okay. All those in favor? Okay. Motion carried. So the next is a formal declaration, and I want to make a motion that we destroy the ballots. So have someone move that motion. Okay, second it. Okay. All those in favor? Motion carried. And as for the bylaws, we're required to hold our ABM each year on February the 28th. But as council, we are always unsure if we're going to have our tax returns and everything done by then. So, or our audit, I guess. So we'd like to make a motion to move the next ABM meeting to March 30th, 2023, and present I'll do that second. So we'll make if I can have someone move that motion. Second that motion. All those in favor? Okay, motion carried. And then I'd like to invite Pastor Carter up and Helen Bacon.
I'll come over here, Alan. Helen and I are going to just pray over this coming year's council. So I think it'd be great if you could stand. Can we do that? And Dave and Norm and Jason, if you could come up here as well. Yeah, perfect.
I appreciate it. Excuse me. Can you hear me okay? I appreciate
Might not be
what,
on.
Carter started
You got to flick it on, I think.
There, it's better. what you started with. You talked about sheep. And do we love the Lord? Are we going to look after his sheep? And I thought that was so good. I'm one of the old sheeps here. A bunch of you are pretty wet behind the ears still. But still, we are learning together. And I'm glad for that. So I appreciated that at the beginning. And I'd like to just give you the prayer that we have in Hebrews, written by the author of Hebrews, as my prayer for us. I would like the audience to stand. Apparently in Ukraine, they stand for prayer there. We have been very much involved with Ukraine problems. People, very much involved. Ruthie's sister is involved. People here are involved. And they told us that they stand and they pray. And they're still standing. So let's remember them too. Put out your hand to the council, please. May the God of peace, who through the blood of the eternal covenant brought back from the dead our Lord Jesus, the great shepherd of the sheep, equipped you with everything good for doing his will, and may he work in you what is pleasing to him, through Jesus Christ, to whom be glory forever and ever. And all God's people said, Amen.
Amen. I don't have anything to add to that. I think that's great. Thank you.
Just like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Can I have someone, Art, he was quick on that one. Second the meeting? All those in favor? Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you everyone for coming.